Hello, everybody. Good morning. I hope you've had a great start to the day. Welcome to IIJNM Storyboarding Journalism Webinar Series 2021. I'm Sangeeta, the Assistant Professor of English at IIJNM. It's nice to meet all of you again. We're waiting for a couple of participants to join in, but we can get started. Let me introduce you to the speaker and to the topic of today's webinar. It's about journalism beyond the news desk, and we're featuring Shraddha Chowdhury today. She's an alumna of batch 2012 of IIJNM, and she's worked at various branches of the media for 9 years with names such as Scroll, First Post, Condé Nast Traveler, and Hello Magazine in Mumbai. She has extensive experience both in the newsroom as well as in the luxury lifestyle space, editing articles to crisp, concise copy and writing features that have been published on a number of websites and in magazines. In this session, Shraddha will discuss the exciting world of journalism beyond news and the opportunities it presents even today when we're working from home. Before we hand over the mic to Shraddha, I'd like to remind you of the format of the webinar. We will have about 60 minutes of the webinar, of which the last 20 we will be taking questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hands through the option on your Zoom, and you can ask the speaker your question yourself. If you cannot, you can also input the questions in the chat box and the speaker will answer them in the last 20 minutes. Hi, Shraddha. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Shall we get started?
Yes, sure.
Awesome.
Let's do this.
All right. So first thing, one of the first questions that most of us get in our heads is, what is the difference between the newsroom and the luxury lifestyle space?
They are, to begin with, and in a nutshell, they are polar opposites. The first thing you notice when you make the switch from a newsroom to the luxury lifestyle space is the pace of work. Because when you're in a newsroom, you're used to want to, even that's where I just have to finish all my work at one go and not sit on it. So when you are in a newsroom, you're used to that kind of culture. It's the pace of work. It's needing to get things done as soon as possible. I mean, that's how we're trained when we enter the newsroom. But then when you move to lifestyle, we go from not having time for meals because we're always meeting deadline to going on 2-hour lunch breaks. I mean, that's just a cavalier way of saying this, but the pace of work is the biggest difference that you will find between a newsroom and the luxury lifestyle space. And then besides that, there's also the attitude that people have towards any content that is not news. Because when you're in lifestyle, you tend to take in everything. Your bread and butter might be lifestyle related news, but at the same time, we don't just completely ignore everything else that is happening in the world. We take in everything. But when you're in the newsroom, even you will find bifurcations even in the newsroom. If you're on the news desk, hard news desk, you will find people there looking down upon someone who might be working on the entertainment beat. So there's always that different perception of different kinds of content. So in that way, you'll find people a lot more open-minded when you're in the lifestyle space. And then it's the whole general atmosphere, because you don't have people running about, you don't have people yelling across the newsroom saying, where's the story, where's that story? It's a lot calmer. It's much easier to take care, and you have better balance and a better routine that way. Because when it comes to news, you always have to be on your toes and you have to keep track of everything that's happening around you all the time. So that urgency is the first thing you find missing when you're making that transition from news to lifestyle. There's also, the primary reason why I switched from news to lifestyle was the choice, the freedom to consume the kind of content I wanted. So when I was with news, when I was with Scroll, or when I was with First Post, I had to be on 24/7. Even on my days off, I had to know what is going on around the world, because it's otherwise if 2 days of not knowing what's happening, and then if I'm on a morning shift, the day I get back to work and I don't know what the hell happened over the weekend, I mean, it's going to throw me off. So you have to be on all the time, and you have to know everything that there is no matter how much it would affect you, no matter how toxic the news is. So, again, besides the pace of work, one of the main differences you find here is the choice to be able to consume what you want. I mean, I'm not saying that we cut off from the rest of the world, but then we are always aware of everything that's happening. But then if we think it's getting too much, we can switch off. We have that liberty to do that. That's one difference. And the only similarity I can think of on the spot is the fact that we need to give clear, concise copy. So at the end of the day, every editor and every writer, that's what they aim for. They have to make sure that they're getting that point across within so many words, not long drawn sentences with 4-5 clauses each. So that is one similarity. I mean, there are obviously differences in the style of writing, but then that is the only similarity I can think of in terms of luxury lifestyle and news that way.
Thank you, Shraddha. A follow-up question would be, what does one have to do, or what skills does one have to acquire to get into this space and start working?
Just lifestyle or luxury lifestyle? Because there'll be a slight difference between that also.
I think our audience would appreciate knowing both of them.
So the main one prerequisite, I would say, and this doesn't apply to anyone who wants to get into lifestyle. One prerequisite to be able to survive in this industry that we're in is to read and read and read as much as you possibly can, and not restrict yourself to just one kind of art, news or a certain kind of article, just certain readers. You need to expand, like broaden your horizons, and make sure that you read and take in however much you can. I mean, that's how I got in. So I made my switch from First Post to Condé Nast Traveler. Poles apart. That's like, they couldn't have been more different than what I found them to be. And it was such a culture shock for me to switch from Network 18, First Post, to the glamorous world of Condé Nast to begin with, and that to travel, not just lifestyle. This was specifically travel. So one of the prerequisites you have is to read, like I said, and just reading. You need to be aware of everything that is going on around you, not just in the news space. You need to know what sells. Because when it comes to luxury lifestyle or lifestyle, there is huge integration between editorial and marketing, and you need to have that creative mind. You need to, and the only way you're going to be able to develop that creativity is to, again, repeating myself, is to read. You need to know what sells. You need to know who sells. You need to scour different websites and take in some good writing. I'm not talking about page 3 who wore what kind of writing, but that also actually helps, because knowledge of brands is important. You need to be aware of the bigger names in the industry, because when you're in edit meetings at such lifestyle meetings, you have random people throwing out random names, and if you are not aware of them, you'll find yourself Googling their names in the middle of the meeting, which I do till date, because as much as I do read, it's difficult to know everything about everyone all the time. So who sells, what sells, getting creativity getting in as much creativity into your ideas as possible. And even when you're thinking of story ideas in the luxury lifestyle space, you have to try and find your own different angles and answer. I mean, if you're going to join IIJNM, you're going to really hear the words "so what" from Kanchan Ma'am. So when you think of a story idea, you need to make sure that you have a particular angle, and the way you're going to be able to train your mind to think of these different angles is to read. Again, I'm just going to reiterate that. And what really helps is signing up for newsletters. Even if you don't have the time to go through many different websites over the day, sign up for look at some of the better magazines that are out there. Some magazines, some newspapers. Try in India, try Open, try India Today. From abroad, you should definitely go for ones like Wired and New Yorker. Even Traveler has a really nice Condé Nast Traveler, India and international, all its international editions. They have really nice, interesting articles. So try and sign up for as many newsletters as possible, because they have a tendency to tweak the headlines in such a way that generate your interest. And the more you take in that kind of content, the more you're going to be able to fit into that space. And I'm just going to give one bit of advice here. So if you do intend to, if you have newsroom experience and you want to make that switch, one of the key things you need to keep in mind is the way you present yourself at an interview. Because I mean, it's going to sound superficial when I say this, but they do look at interviews, they do look at how you present yourself, how you speak, how you are dressed, because at the end of the day, when you're out, you're going to be representing that brand. As superficial as that sounds, it's how it works. You need to present yourself in such a way, and you have to make sure that you get across your point, because they will want to know how your newsroom experience is going to help them if they bring you into the lifestyle space. So I'll give you an example. One of the reasons I was able to make it through my Condé Nast interview from First Post is that I used to write extensively on the environment, any environment related news, even like reports, interviews, stories, whatever it was. And I tried to get that point across to them, that even if like my knowledge of environment related news would help in the travel aspect, because I mean, if there are no coral reefs, you're not going to be able to travel to a coral reef, to a region with coral reef. That was just one example I could give them. And so a couple of months down the line, I went on to head the sustainability vertical that we launched at Traveler. So you really have to get across the point that, I mean, if you think that you have learned whatever you could from the news space, put that point across. Make sure that you have your bullets in mind about how you are going to be able to use that newsroom experience in the lifestyle space. Because at the end of the day, if you can't present yourself when you're representing a luxury brand, no matter how good you're writing or editing, it's going to be hard to make the cut. So few
And
prerequisites that way.
and what about as a fresher? What does one have to keep in mind as a fresher? If they can they apply, and what do they need to have?
It is in lifestyle is not hard to crack for freshers, but luxury lifestyle is, because editors mostly look for people who have contacts in the luxury lifestyle space. You need to have those, need to have that connect with people. You need to be able to get through to them and get your stories and get good names on board. So I'm going to be frank here. Lifestyle not so tough, but luxury, it's a little hard for freshers unless you have some kind of internship experience at least with in the luxury space.
All right. Thank you, Shraddha. Um, Next question would be to ask you about your work day. How does it look like? You said it's a little less strenuous as compared to your newsroom experience, but could you give us a detailed look?
Yeah. When I said less strenuous, maybe because we're not always on our toes with regard to breaking news, but my work hours are definitely longer right now. But that's going to happen as you move up the ladder. I mean, you're going to work longer and longer hours as you get more and more responsibility. So, as Sangeeta said towards the beginning of this webinar, I am currently the copy chief of Hello. So when you say copy chief, you might just think that it's only related to copy editing, which, trust me, is a very small part of my day. I may spend maybe an hour or an hour and a half at the max, because there is just, it frankly, it gets annoying when people call me the copy editor in face of the copy chief, because there is so much more to it at the end of the day. Because a usual workday would be like, I start with a bit of my own backlog, because I write my own stories as well. I write my own stories, and then when you have a few contributors sending theirs in, I need to do a thorough read of that and then get back to them with feedback. If it's lacking something, they need to get in touch with their sources. So it's doing a lot of back and forth with regard to the kind of writing, because it is at the end of the day my job to make sure that the quality is up to par. I'm a little finicky that way, and I won't let substandard copy go up or get published in any way. And then, like I said, luxury lifestyle, there's a lot of overlap between marketing and ad sales, marketing, content, and editorial. So you have to be on call for when you might get a call from someone from ad sales, or you might get a call from someone from marketing saying, we're going to be pitching to the client, can you help us out with a few ideas? And that takes ideating takes quite a bit of time, because it's not just you thinking of ideas. You also need to maybe speak to the rest of the edit team, the editorial team, and try and get their inputs as well, because at the end of the day, that is where the money is. So what the kind of ideas that you come up with are what the marketing and ads, I mean, they'll have their own ideas as well, but a majority of it is what comes from the editorial team, and then they take it forward to their clients. And that's how we get all the money in the luxury lifestyle space. I mean, I'm giving you some insight into it. That's how it works. So a lot of the time, some of the content in editorial is, they might mention brands here and there, and that is how edit supports marketing and ad sales to make sure that we get those ads, we get the money from them in that way, to make that's how the revenue system works. So as the copy chief, I'm very highly involved in that also. Then, like I said, every article that goes into the magazine goes through me. So even if it is the editor-in-chief's article, her edit letter, even if it is the managing editor's article, all of them go through me. And I coordinate a lot with the design team as well, in terms of the kind of layouts that we're looking at for the magazine. Because if it looks like they've given a little too much space to visuals and just a caption size box for text, I'm not going to stand for that. Because at the end of the day, people don't just open, I mean, it's not a coffee table book. People don't just open a magazine to look at glossy images. There needs to be some kind of writing. So I need to make sure that there is a slight a slight balance between the two. At Hello, there is a lot more balance, because the design team is really good, and they try and make sure that whatever copy we have sent them does fit into the kind of layouts that they make. So that is one huge plus at working with the design team at Hello. Then at the current stage, I'm also handling the digital space of Hello Magazine, because we are in the process. I mean, Hello Print has been in India since 2006, but we are currently in the process of developing our website. So for the website, before the website is launched, we need to get a big bank of content ready. We are working on we just restarted our social media handles. So I'm taking care of all the social media that there is, with the help of my colleagues, of course. I'm handling the social media. I am banking a bunch of content for the website's launch. And I never thought I would actually have to go through this. The last time I actually edited videos was at IIJNM, which was in 2012 for my master's thesis. That was the last I edited an article. But now I'm back to doing that, because we are currently in the process of hiring a videographer and the whole digital team, basically. So till they are in space, I'm going to be doing this. So whatever creative videos and reels and graphics, if you see going up on Hello Social, so that's all me at the moment. Hopefully we get someone in place, because I would like to stick to my copy for now and not text. So as you see, there's a lot more to being the copy chief than just copy editing.
Just a very quick follow-up question, Shraddha, since you mentioned jumping into digital and relaunching social media handles. How different would handling the digital space or even social media for a magazine be? As in, what all does go in there? What do you have to keep in mind?
Sorry, could you just repeat that?
So social media, we know social media is playing a very pivotal role in also just directing news and making sure it reaches people. So how does it look for a lifestyle magazine or luxury lifestyle magazine to get into social media? What do you focus on?
There's no particular formula for that, really, Sangeeta, because at the end of the day, we need to, like, what we are also trying to do right now, we are playing around with different kinds of content. Like Hello has a few buckets that it follows. Like There's interiors, there's fashion, there's beauty, there's lifestyle news in general. There's, of course, some celebrity and wellness also, since, I mean, in the middle of the pandemic, wellness really got some renewed focus. So we try to play around with all these different buckets, and sometimes we need to strike a balance, because it is not always about the views and the likes. Sometimes we just need to put something up to show that we are also mindful of something that is happening. For example, say the whole sports and mental health saga that happened with the French Open and Naomi Osaka, and now you have Barbie releasing a doll designed after her. So these, while it might not seem like it is very luxury lifestyle, it's still something that is current and still something that we think, if it isn't relevant to our audience, it should. So we need to play around with different things and try out different things and make sure that Hello is not tone deaf to what is happening around the world at the same time, that way.
Right.
Like,
And
I'll
also,
give you one more, I'll just give you one example. So we recently put up a post on Instagram with images of star kids like Shania Kapoor and not Ananya, Ahan Pandey and those people. So we expected some backlash, but we didn't expect this kind of backlash. I mean, it's got a fair few comments for a page that was not active for about a year. It's got a fair number of comments, and at the end of the day, see, we knew that we are going to get some negative feedback on this because everyone is like, oh my God, nepotism and all of that. But at the end of the day, we also need to think that if you had a kid and you ran a business, wouldn't you want him to be involved in it? Isn't that a natural reaction for any parent? So we need to try, and we need to have to balance the two strains of thought. I mean, we are also, do you get what I'm saying here? So that's what I mean. That's what I meant, right? So we knew that there was going to be some kind of trolling that would come our way by putting something like this up. But at the end of the day, we also knew that regardless of how much you might hate the idea of nepotism, these kids don't have lakhs and lakhs of followers on social media if people weren't interested in them. So we have to cater to that section of our audience also. So that is where we strike our balance, and that is how we try to pull up different kinds of content for the digital space.
thank you, Shraddha. I think that gives us a broader outlook of how, how to strike a balance, or even to think about, usually this is a follow-up to my next question actually. When we talk about journalism, or when people talk about like journalism, they're only thinking of hard news, right? Like you mentioned in the beginning. I'm sure you would have faced questions like this and feedback like this. How do you deal with that? What do you say to people who don't consider what you do as serious journalism?
I was one of those people when I was at IIJNM.
Mhm.
I actually was, and not because of IIJNM. It was just my mind frame at that. Even before that, that news is news. News is your five W's and one H. News is what politicians do. But today I have a very simple answer to your question, Sangeeta, when they say that that lifestyle is not serious journalism. If lifestyle wasn't serious journalism, I wouldn't have 12 to 14-hour work days. And if this wasn't serious journalism, we wouldn't have the kind of audience that we do. Like, our celebrities wouldn't be celebrities. To give one example, our celebs wouldn't be celebs if it wasn't for the kind of interest that the masses have in their lives. At the end of the day, people want to know what they're doing and want to know what they're doing beyond just their movies. People want to know what their, for the interior space, people want to know what their homes look like, and they're and the ones who have that privilege, those who want to know what their rooms look like, they would also want to approach the same architects or designers to be able to have a luxurious home like that. at the end of the day, it's all related to human interest. These are all human interest related stories. I mean, when you're reading I'm finding it hard to articulate this because I've had so many arguments with people regarding this. And if people didn't, how do I put this across to you? Lifestyle exists at the end of the day because of the huge fraction of the audience that the media has is interested in that aspect of people's lives in a nutshell. I mean, I can't articulate it better than that. Seriously.
Shraddha, just a follow-up question as well. Can you give us a couple of examples where you have covered stories which are close to your heart, or where when you made the transition from newsroom to lifestyle, did you cover stories that bordered between the two?
I have to think about this. I did cover a bunch of stories related to sustainability. So even at home, I have like leading an eco-friendly lifestyle is something I consciously try, and this is an argument that I get into with my parents often because it's plastic, plastic, plastic everywhere. It's infuriating, really. To like you can imagine running a sustainability handle and then coming home to finding all these plastic bags and bags inside plastic. It's really frustrating. So I have written a number of stories related to sustainability when I was with Condé Nast Traveler. So even here at Hello, I do try and take up stories that are related to both sustainability and wellness. Because again, at the end of the day, there might be conversation around it, but these are two subjects that I feel quite strongly about, not just for personal reasons, but also because I think people are talking about them, but they're not talking about it enough. So even if 100 people read my story, I would like for a lot more to be able to read that story. But even if 100 people read that story, it will make me feel better to know that I might have imparted a little bit of knowledge related to being more eco-friendly that way. So there are a couple of stories related to that I did write for Traveler. Even when I was at first post, I had written about Maharashtra's ban on plastic. So as you can see, I'm quite big on the environment space. So those are the kinds of articles I try to write even when I'm in the luxury lifestyle space, because at the end, there's a huge audience for conscious luxury. So that is a market that hasn't been tapped into as much. But if you think of ITC, you might just think of, oh my God, grand hotels. But then behind the scenes, ITC does so much in the green, eco-friendly space. It's so commendable. You have properties like the Kumaun, you have chains of hotels like CJH Earth. I mean, all these are really glamorous hotels and resorts, but you need to see what goes on behind the scenes also, and that is the kind of market I also try to really tap into. So you see, when you're talking about luxury lifestyle, it's not just glamour and celebrities. And if anyone asks me about scope of the industry right now, this is your answer to that.
Thank you, Shraddha. I was going to ask you about what shift you've noticed since you've been working in the lifestyle and the luxury lifestyle space for quite some years now. You will have noticed a shift in consumer thinking also, right? Are people shifting to certain, like you said, conscious, sustainable consumption? Has that increased over the past couple of years?
It it's a hard to answer this question without proper figures, really, Sangeeta. But in terms
Correct.
of content consumption, we have, like the two subjects that I mentioned earlier, we have noticed a slight shift in perceptions towards conscious luxury for one, sustainability, eco-friendly measures that our luxury brands are making. And I'm not talking about just hotels. I'm also talking about, you see, Nike and Adidas, Reebok, they make such a big noise every time you hear them creating a particular line of sportswear, line of shoes using ocean plastic. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because fast fashion is such a huge contributor to the plastic that is out there and environmental degradation. And it's really nice to see these bigger brands do such things. So in terms of retail consumption plus consumption of content that is related to such kind of news, there has definitely been a shift. And with the pandemic, there is of course a greater conversation around mental health and wellness. I mean, it is really simple. If you're feeling sick, if you're feeling nauseous, you're going to see a doctor. It's, I mean, if you see it logically, it is that simple. If you're sick, you're nauseous, you see a doctor. And if you are unable to get a particular strain of thought out of your head, you have doctors for that as well. I mean, psychiatry, that particular branch of medicine exists for a reason, not because it is just for people who are crazy, as people like to say, which is just really degrading way to put things. So these are a few things, few ways I think content consumption has seen a not a drastic change, but there definitely has been increase in interest.
Right. Um, just a question for people who might want to get into this space. Maybe not luxury lifestyle like you suggested, or just lifestyle. They will be meeting people like celebrities or famous designers to interview them. How does one prepare for it?
Do your research. Do your research, dig deep, and know everything that there is possible to know about them before you approach them. Don't ask them questions that you have seen them already answer at different interviews. Like if you're going to meet an interior designer, please don't ask them what is their design philosophy. They hate it. They hate it because they're asked such questions. What is your design philosophy? And for fashion designers, what is the inspiration behind your latest line? Even if that is the kind of answer you want them to give you, try and make your question a little interesting so they don't roll your eyes at you. Don't ask them questions which are dated. Like ask them things that will make them want to talk to you and not just go question by question. You know that, because at the end of the day, if they don't feel like you are actually, they need to feel like you are there because you're in there to interview them because you are interested in them and not just treating it as a story for the sake of a byline. You need to make your interviews as conversational as possible. Drop the formality just a little. Oh, be respectful, of course. You need to drop the formality a little. Be conversational, be open. Try and be as warm as possible so that they open up to you, and don't just directly jump into an interview. Like you sit down, so hey, here's my first question. Don't go with that. Make a bit of small talk. Ask them how they're doing, how they've been the last few months, pandemic, etc. You'll have loads to talk about. So ease into it that way. So this is not just for fashion designers, for any interview that you might have. Any.
Huh.
Literally.
Thank you, Shraddha. One question that has been on our minds is how the pandemic has wreaked havoc on a lot of fields across the world. Has How much of an effect has it had on your profession?
Okay, so when the pandemic happened in, as a lockdown started in March last year. And at that time, I was with Condé Nast Traveler. So
Right. So
that
you can't
it was
travel.
a double whammy. So you have the two most, like, two, besides, of course, our daily wage earners, the industries that were hit the most by the pandemic was one, travel, two, print. So with Condé Nast Traveler, we really hit a block at that point. We were just, our April issue was entirely ready, but then we had stories in it that were related to Italy and France and Australia. So we had to drop that issue. That was the first time in CNT's and Travelers history since its launch in India in 2011 that they had to drop an issue, because Italy at that time, as you remember, was the worst affected country. France, neighboring country, it was also really bad at that point. Australia had already closed its borders. We had a story related to Vietnam and Thailand also, I remember. But Vietnam was one of the first countries to block everyone out, and they still haven't opened borders. So, and We did consider going only digital, but then we decided against it because at the end of the day, for a glossy magazine like that, people like to hold it, they like to, it's the whole touch and feel with such magazines that people enjoy. And it is not just, I mean, looking at it digitally, just looking at a PDF of the magazine really does not give you the same experience as you would have when you're flipping a page. So we decided against going digital for April at that point, and we dropped the issue entirely. And the I'm talking about travel right now because at that time when the pandemic struck, I was with Condé Nast Traveler. So we, being a travel magazine in the middle of all such travel restrictions, was a challenge like none other. But then I must say that we came out of it really well because we realized at that point that this is where we have a platform to really show our show the whole of hospitality, because luxury lifestyle travel has so much of hospitality with regard to restaurants and your hotels. So we realized that this was the time we can actually show everyone that Condé Nast Traveler is here for you. So we gave them free mentions in our stories. We came out with different videos where we show them borders. We came out with a video called Borders Closed, Hearts Open, which means it basically meant borders are closed. And despite going through all the crores and crores of losses that these luxury hotels were going through, they were still opening up their kitchens to try and feed all those daily wage earners who were left in the lurch and had nowhere to go at that point. So that was the whole idea behind Borders Closed, Hearts Wide Open. And we started a campaign called In It Together, saying that we are also, like, travelers also part of the travel industry, as are you, as much as you are. And we see what you're doing. You might not be publicizing, like Lemon Tree did a great amount of work. The whole chain of Lemon Tree hotels, it did so much during the pandemic, including opening up their hotels to be used as quarantine centers. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, you're under so much loss, but then you still have it in you to invite people in, knowing that later on you're going to have to incur additional costs to sanitize the whole place before you can actually get people in. I mean, these might sound like little things, and you might think that all of these hotel groups are so huge, they have all that money. That's not true, because the kind of losses that airlines, restaurants, hotels, and the whole of hospitality in general, the whole tourism sector, hospitality in general, has faced in this 1 year, it's going to take them a minimum of 3 to 4 years to recover all of that, especially in the luxury space, because it's a very niche audience. You don't have the masses coming to them. So that was one. And then I am with Hello right now. And the only reason that was possible was because the RPSG group took over Hello. Hello from 2006 till last year was part of the WWM group. They shut down. So that was the kind of impact. I mean, from Condé Nast Traveler, I moved to Hello, and the only reason I was able to do that was because RPSG took over. But Hello shut down last year after their May issue, I think. So May 2020 was the last issue, and we just relaunched. Like literally 2 days ago, we had our July 2021 issue, which was Hello's relaunch under a new banner. So you can see that print really took a hit because we didn't know with COVID restrictions whether the presses are going to be open, because we don't always print in the city. Like both Condé Nast and Hello goes to Kalajodi in Telangana. So Telangana, and when we were supposed to go to print, they announced some kind of lockdown. We don't know what the working hours are going to be at the press. So even if we had so much, we had all our content ready and we didn't know whether we could print. I mean, these are the kind of chaotic things that really play on your mind at the end of the day. So these are some of the restrictions that we have to face, and we do have to get a little creative. Now that we're all living in this new normal that we've been hearing, we have to get really creative with regard to the way we go about things. Travel aside, I mean, that's a whole other conversation really. But even with Hello, where we function so much on shoots, there's a lot of Hello's known for its glamour, right? So we function so much on fashion shoots and beauty shoots, but it's taking a lot out of us to convince people to do that right now. So lots of restrictions at the moment. But we are positive. We are still working towards our next issues. We are getting creative. We are trying to do things digitally. In fact, we are trying to that shoots have moved digital. I mean, you have a stylist who will direct the person on the scene, hold the laptop a certain way. Then a photographer on the other end of the screen clicks, sitting in front of a Zoom call. So everything has moved digital. Everything has moved digital, and it's really given us a whole other perspective towards how we can work. I mean, in our field, physical offices have definitely taken a hit, and the need for them also. So we had no idea when we are going to be going back. Hello is supposed to be based out of Bombay. We don't have an office yet, and frankly, I don't want to go back also right now. I'm quite happy where I am with my family at this moment. So yeah, a lot has changed over the years, Sangeeta. There's so much more. Like every story idea that we think of, there's so much of what ifs that we have to consider before actually executing it, before moving to the execution stage. I think I've taken up like spoken longer than I should have. So let's move to the next one.
Yes. So I think we can open up the session for questions from the audience if they have any.
Yeah.
Yes. Participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to just unmute and put it in. Okay. Somebody has already put it in. Would you like to unmute and ask your question? Prantika?
There we have our first question related to scope of the travel journalism industry. So, like I said, Prantika, you have to get like currently to be in travel journalism, you have to get really, really creative with the ideas. I mean, you are going on a trip to Goa and you would like to talk about it. That's not a story. If you're going on a trip to Goa and you are specifically going to a particular section of South Goa to scour some of the best restaurants there, that is a story. So that is how you find different angles to a particular story you might be thinking about. And you need to get I mean, there's only one way to say this. To be in travel currently, you have to get extremely creative about your ideas. People are big on road trips right now. Those are the kind of ideas you need to pitch. But in terms of scope, I'm not really sure how to answer that right now. So when you're asking me about, I'd like you to unmute. Where are you? When you're asking me about scope, what do you mean? Are you talking about freelancing? Are you talking about whether these companies are hiring, or what is it that you'd like to know about?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I want to know about like what is the field right now offering, because mainly in journalism we almost study about the hard news part. Uh, right now I'm going to join IIJNM, but I did my bachelor's in mass media. So in the whole 3 years we've been studying about the hard news part only. So I want to know, because I have a lot of interest and I did a couple of internship also where I work with Pink Villa, that is the entertainment bit. So I want to know what is the what are the scopes over there, like how the industry is working, or right now, as you told about your experience because of the pandemic, what all you faced. So I want to know what are the future scope, like both as how they is it a growing industry or like it can have a standstill.
Travel is always growing. There's so
I
much,
guess.
there is so much out there. Travel is always growing. So there's always a new place to see. There's some secret place someone has discovered out like by accident, that becomes a story. And then like I said, Prantika, it's actually a really hard question to answer because scope can mean anything, and I'm frankly not really clear about what you would like me to say right now. Um, I think you just have to be, when you're approaching travel, say, I'm just going to speak to you from a freelancer's point of view right now. So if, say, you are interested in travel journalism, the way you mentioned, you're interested in travel journalism, but when you're going to be pitching ideas to different editors for different, it can be travel and leisure, it can be Outlook Traveler, it can be CNT, either way, but all of them right now are not looking for your general stories. Like, you can't go to them right now, and you need to, the industry is not going to do this for you. If you are interested in travel journalism, you need to broaden your scope. If you're approaching these different organizations because you're interested in travel journalism, you need to show that that your interest in travel goes beyond 5 road trips to take from Delhi right now. Anyone can tell you all the hills all around Delhi, but the whole the whole of that region is traveling to right now. So you need to get really creative. Like, when you're talking to them about a story idea, say if you pitch them an idea, or if you've done something like this, if you tell them something like, your story, the crux of your story is a Delhi to Nainital road trip. But what will set you apart is all the places, the best places to eat along that route. So that is how you need to think of your angles more creatively, and that is how you need to broaden your scope if you are interested in travel journalism. Because travel is currently something, we're looking beyond luxury and travel, and we are trying to go, the whole industry is actually going hyper local, going local. Like, even one of traveler's latest taglines is going hyper local. So the more that you can tell them about a particular place, a particular route, and be as don't be generic with your information, with your ideas, is what I'm trying to say. Go hyper local. Go for very, if be creative, guys. Just be creative. Try and think of various angles that you can put forth in your stories, and then you broaden your scope for yourself. The industry, any industry, be it travel, be it luxury, be it sustainability, be it entertainment, no industry is going to give you that scope. The scope is what you present with it.
Thank you, Shraddha. Anirban has a very interesting question. Anirban, can you unmute and ask your question?
Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
First of all, good morning. Madam, my question is quite simple. Since you are involved in the luxury brand and its endorsement, as a journalist, suppose I'm giving you an example. Suppose you are promoting Versac as a brand, and Versac makes both vegan and non-vegan products. Like, nowadays current culture is all about some are against the leather, and same actors and actresses are promoting either vegan products or non-vegan products. So when you project it as a report in your Hello magazine or something, then how do you? It doesn't create a sense of hypocrisy to promote both the things, or how do you separate it? How do you project it in front of the consumers?
I didn't catch the name of the brand you mentioned.
The name of the brand is Versac. It's not about the brand, madam. The question
Anyway,
is
so
quite
what I'm
simple.
trying to, okay, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
with I'm just going to go with the one example that you gave with regard to vegan, non-vegan, etc. But if you see today, the companies that are truly conscious about the kind of products that they are coming out with, because if you're a vegan luxury if you're a vegan luxury brand, you're not going to go with somebody who promotes the traditional kind of leather. I mean, the brand itself is not going to approach a celebrity to approach such a celebrity to endorse such a product. For example, when Shah Rukh used to endorse Pepsi, and I remember this one instance coming up. Shah Rukh used to endorse Pepsi, but there was some kind of at some show they had a bottle of Coke placed in front of it. It created a huge controversy. I mean, so one, the celebs also have to be mindful of this. Plus, the celebs celebs, in fact, are the ones who actually care about the environment, like Dia Mirza and Randeep Huda and all these kinds of people. They are mindful of the kind of brands that they endorse. Then on the other side, you have people who are mindful of the whole societal way of thinking. Fairness products is one thing that that I can give an example of right now. I mean, you have celebrities who are doing this, and then you also have celebs who have been very vocal against it, like Nandita Das for one. There is one of that. And then with luxury, the issue is like I've been saying since the beginning, when it comes to luxury, you really have to strike a balance between ethics and where the revenue is coming in. So, like you said, there is such a limited base for these kinds of products, but at the end of the day, when you are a luxury lifestyle magazine, these are the people who, like, if we have advertisements for a particular brand, vegan, non-vegan, whatever it is, in the magazine, we know that these are the kinds of people who are going to be able to afford these. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that kind of ad or report in the magazine to begin with. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, madam. Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Shraddha.
Yukta has a question.
Do we?
Yeah, she's raised her hand.
Yeah, go on. Do you want to unmute
Yes.
and ask? Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am. Actually, I wanted to ask you that, like, I am interested in travel journalism, but in a specific kind, like there are epic channels or discovery channels where people go into in a particular place. Like in the last episode, I saw that there was one person who went to this Jodhpur, somewhere, some village in Jodhpur, and he was talking about the lifestyle of that particular place, the people, their culture, traditions, and everything. And he was also discovering a few very unknown places which are extremely beautiful, but it is not popular among the tourists. So I want to do the same kind of work in future. So how am I supposed to achieve that? What am I supposed to do?
You're talking about broadcast, Yukta. Broadcast works a little
Yes, ma'am.
differently.
In journalism, I am going to study in journalism, IIJNM, and I have selected broadcast journalism.
Okay. Do you have any experience with video? Do you have any? Are you a traveler yourself? Tell me that.
I am very much interested in traveling, but
Yeah,
not
but
right now.
you're interested. Everyone is interested in traveling. Everyone wants to travel.
Due to my family issues, I'm not being able to travel. But once I start,
to be able to crack it on, and what is your interest? Do you want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera?
in front of the camera,
So you want to be anchoring such shows.
maybe.
Good, very good. So for this, Yukta, I think first of all, the first thing you have to be well traveled. They do look at how much travel experience you have, because you're a person who has been around a lot. They do grow with every experience they have, and then they will want to see the kind of places that you have gone to. Like, is it the usual conventional places, or the kind of places to use the same example as you, Epic does go into the tiniest corners of India to get their stories across. I mean, there's so much diversity, which is why I'm saying, like, someone asked, who Prantika had asked about the scope of travel journalism. There is so much that you can dig into when it comes to travel in India. It's ridiculous. So for that, Yukta, you have to be extreme, you need to present yourself really well. You need to speak really well. You need to show that you have that confidence in front of the camera. I hate being in front of the camera myself. So I'm not really the best person to be answering this question, but these are few things I can tell you off the top of my mind, really. And they are going to look at your travel experience. They're going to look at your experience in front of the camera, because to being in front of the cam, you have to have some experience behind. It's not the first step. It's never the first. Being in front of the camera, when a person joins a newsroom, even in broadcast, the first thing is do is not anchoring. They work behind the scenes. They gain that experience. They gain that experience. They see what is going up, how people behave in front of the camera with such a massive crew around you, and then after some trial and error do they get to be in front of the cam. It's not going to be the first step of your journey. It's not the first step of anyone's journey, unless you want to open your own travel blog and take it from there and present it to whichever company you want to. You can always start with YouTube. If you like
So,
to travel, go out, travel, take your vlogs, use all the different multimedia equipment that people have right now. Get comfortable in front of the camera, create your YouTube channel, show that you have the confidence to be in front of the camera, and then maybe you can present it to whichever channel you want to work with.
so if right now that won't be my first step, so what will be my initial step as a fresher?
Behind the scenes, everyone has to move up the ladder, so you start from scratch. It will be, I don't, for travel, I don't even think it's going to be on field.
Even if it is, oh, sorry for silly questions, but even if it is off screen, what will be my first job profile? If I want to do anchoring, what will be my first step?
It depends on what you're applying for. It depends on the kind of openings that they have for. It's mostly going to be post-production work, or it can also be pre-production in terms of making you do research for the next place they want to explore. It's going to be the smallest task in the whole process to begin with, because that's how everybody starts. Like if you're in print, you have the first things that, if you're in print and your first stint as an intern, all you do is proofread, and that you get stuff to proofread after they have been proofread by some of the more experienced people. So it's not going to be easy, Yukta. I'm going to be frank with you. It's a difficult journey, especially in terms of broadcast, especially in terms of entertainment related broadcast. So you really have to grind behind the scenes before you can actually come, like, go in front of the screen, be in front of camera.
Okay. Like I do not have any experience in traveling right now, but through journalism, I want to gain that experience. That is why I'm doing journalism.
For travel journalism, Yukta, you have to be a traveler. You have to have that travel knowledge. You can't travel sitting behind a screen. You can't travel sitting behind. I mean, everyone is doing their virtual traveling through reels and magazines and photographs and their photo dumps from previous trips right now. But to be in travel journalism, you have to be a traveler. That's a prerequisite. I mean,
And
that's
even if
kind of.
I travel, it is not that I haven't traveled. I have traveled, but I don't have any record of it. So how am I supposed to show that I have gained experience in these areas?
I can answer that if you tell me the kind of places you've traveled to.
For example, I have been to Nainital. So let's talk about Nainital. I have been to places, but I do not have any record of it.
The record doesn't matter, the experience does. But besides, where do you stay?
Kolkata.
Oh, same city as me. So,
Shraddha, would you mind me just jumping in and
sure.
requesting Yukta to probably put her questions down and she can send it to us on email, and maybe I can send it to you, and if you have the time you can reply to her email, because we have a couple more questions and we are running out of time for the session. Is
Yeah,
that
but
all?
I'll just be very brief with you, Yukta. In a nutshell, what I can tell you is, to be in travel journalism, one, you have to be a traveler. It can't be just to a couple of places, and it is not really. And if you want to be in front of the camera, you're going to have to record stuff. Because at the end of the day, if they can't see what you are like in front of the cam, you're not going to make it there. So you have to, like I said, try working, get your equipment, try practicing in front of the camera, next time you travel, make records of it, vlog. I mean, all travelers vlog nowadays, even if it is just photographs, take that, write about your experiences, start your blog. I mean, you can't just say that you are interested in travel and not have anything to show for it.
That's nice.
Thank you, Yukta, for your questions. And
Okay, thank you.
yeah, we have two questions, of which one I think, Prantika, as you've already answered, Shraddha. What do you think? She asks, how do you balance the glossy advertising and the main content that you want to deliver to your readers? I'm assuming you've already given it an answer, saying that it is a difficult balance, but you managed
I
to.
mean,
Yeah,
you have to at the end of the day, because we know that we have revenue. I'm just going to go over the question once. Give me 1 second.
correct. One last question is from Ananya. Ananya, do you want to unmute and ask the question so we can quickly?
Let me just answer Prantika
Ah,
once. At the end of the day, you are not the one who is going to go up to ad sales and say that let's approach this client. I have this idea. So you work with ad sales and marketing when they come to you, when they ask you for ideas. So besides that, there is the whole magazine doesn't run on ads alone. You have your own story ideas to work on. You have your own features to work on. I mean, it's not just about profiling. Like when I'm with Hello and I want to interview someone, there has to be a reason for me to want to interview them. It's not just because, oh, this person exists, oh, he's famous, let's go talk to them. Every story needs to have an angle for that. Every feature needs to have an angle. So at the end of the day, if you are an editorial, you're working for editorial. You're not working for magazine. If you are an editorial, your concern should not be revenue. If you have an idea, you can definitely put it across to your editor. You can definitely mark your ad sales and marketing team to them. But if you are an editorial, think editorial. Revenue is not your first concern. That's not your job. There's a whole other team for it. Ananya, you can unmute if you're around.
Ananya's mic isn't working,
Oh,
but
sorry.
do you want me to read out her question?
I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we do cover health and healthy lifestyle. Like I said, people want to know what these guys are doing, what these celebs are doing. So it's just, they're not over the top stories. They're really small stories which are picked up from that. Because unless we have interviews with them where we ask them specific questions related to their lifestyle, most of it is curated content from what they already shared. All of them are very active on social media. A lot of this is information that is already out there. So they're not really stories as such. If you see platforms like Pinkvilla and Femina, they often just repurpose whatever celebrities have already posted. So that's the kind of that's really a copy paste work. It's not really, that is not journalism for sure. It's just copy pasting work, and it's the kind of content that it's giving people the kind of content they want for the heck of it. There's no thought behind it.
I think this brings us to an end of the session, Shraddha. I'd like to thank you for telling us how much journalism need not be confined to just hard news and giving us.
There's so much beyond hard news, really.
Exactly. Thank you for opening our eyes to it and giving us a little sneak peek into luxury lifestyle journalism and reporting.
My
It was really
pleasure.
great talking to you.
Happy. I'm glad. I hope I was able to articulate myself well enough for everyone to understand that there's so much more to journalism than just hard news and what our politicians are doing. There's so much more to it, really. So hopefully
Absolutely.
this will broaden your scope of thinking in terms of journalism.
Thank you, Shraddha. Our next webinar, this is for the participants. Our next webinar will be meeting Vikas Pandey, who's BBC's India editor. He'll talk about reporting India to a global audience. I hope to see you there. Thank you for attending today's webinar and have a nice day.